Alright everyone, the ADL now openly and avowedly supports male genital mutilation, and this is something, I am an intactivist. I believe that male circumcision should be banned. There should be felony charges for anyone engaging in the practice. They should be in prison the rest of their fucking lives, because it's child abuse. It's also kind of sexual abuse when you think about it. It does involve the genitals. I do not believe that a religious exception should exist in any way, shape, or form, and I take this based on the concept of equality, number one, because we already have this prescribed for females. If someone is a zealot, let's say they practice Wahhabism, they believe that the female infant or young child or whatever, it depends on the cultural background, they believe that the clitoral hood should be removed, the labia should be removed, whatever. We do not allow that as a society. We call that genital mutilation. It is banned. It's considered child abuse. Doctors who engage in the practice will be brought up on charges. They will lose their medical license at the bare minimum. Except in Michigan, of course. In Flint, it's okay because of the demographics there, I guess. It's weird how that works. Generally speaking, it's banned. Generally speaking, it's considered a crime. It has no medical reasoning behind it. It's pure superstition. It's just a bunch of religious bullshit, basically. Somehow, though, with male genital mutilation, which they call circumcision, it's not really mutilation, even though it's the same kind of tissue being fucking removed, for a purely aesthetic purpose, usually, because most of the people doing it are not Jewish, or for a superstitious religious purpose, because of course God made people flawed, and you can make them a little bit less flawed as long as you have a scalpel, apparently. This makes perfect sense to people who follow cults. But for some reason, we don't ban male genital mutilation. I would argue it's the same fucking shit. There's no medical reason for it. There are all sorts of religious universities, and there's all sorts of literature by people who have like a PhD in Bible studies first and foremost. They say, well, here are the 5 top benefits. It helps stop AIDS transmission. It makes you 50% less susceptible to syphilis and bullshit like that. It's not real. It's a bunch of bullshit. The complication rate is in the double digits in some cases, depending on the finesse of the medical establishment and the nation you're talking about. People here in Europe, generally speaking, if you look at circumcision rates around the world, the rate here in Europe is fairly low. I don't see huge amounts of extra AIDS transmission in Europe. I don't see huge amounts of extra syphilis and all of these other things that supposedly are considerably more susceptible to people who aren't circumcised, who aren't genital mutilated. It's basically superstition, and I know why. Science has tried to justify it for 2 reasons. The more modern reason is because they don't want to look anti-Semitic. If doctors came out and said, look, we no longer recommend circumcision, it's basically a barbaric child abuse practice with no real medical reasoning behind it, they'd get called anti-Semitic. So they're trying to avoid lawsuits, they're trying to avoid censure, they're trying to avoid losing their lucrative careers. The cowardice, essentially. That's number 1. Number 2 is in the sense of eugenics, essentially. Some of these people actually believe their own bullshit. Circumcision was never really a thing in the US, for example, until about the 1920s. The eugenics movement, which was pioneered by religious zealots and feminists, wanted to make people more biblical. For a very religious reason. They thought the U.S. was the New Jerusalem, so to speak, the religious purpose. Feminists wanted the more aesthetic penis, so they wanted their dudes circumcised because they thought it was cleaner or whatever. For the same reason that they tried to ban tobacco and alcohol and force men to be clean-shaven, make sure that they have short hair and stuff. The rugged male appeal prior to the 1920s was completely stripped away in favor of a slave-like castration of the male population by a bunch of second waivers and religious zealots who wanted the men to stop drinking so that they could pay more tithes. The women wanted them to stop drinking because, well, it smells bad. Well, he goes out and shoots things when he gets angry, when he's drunk or something. Okay, that might be a positive effect, but still, prohibition did not work. This is why circumcision is common in the Americas. It's not even really a biblical principle. The kind of circumcision that they're practicing isn't necessarily even strictly biblical to begin with. We don't make a religious exception for females. Why should we make a religious exception for males? For the ADL to come out and say, well, it's anti-Semitic if you're arguing against male circumcision. No, it's not. There are other groups of people. Most people in the U.S. who are circumcised aren't Jews. They're Protestants. For the most part, it's linked to Protestantism. It's become a hippie-style New Age practice within the Christian church to try to get people to mutilate their sons. I think that anyone who does that should be in prison. By the way, yes, I myself am circumcised. Does it cause any dysfunction or problems? No, but in some people it does, and it shouldn't be done because it has no benefit. There's no purpose behind it. It serves no legitimate medical purpose whatsoever. All of the lies we've been told for the last 100 years, largely they come from unaccredited, unsourced studies from biblical universities by some dude named Noah. He walks around in a robe and he pretends that the world is 6,000 years old. He's definitely fit to give medical advice. It's a bunch of fucking horseshit. Circumcision should be banned. It shouldn't even be an option. No, and there shouldn't be a religious exception. And if someone goes overseas to go to a country that'll still perform it, they should still go to jail. Again, we do that for someone who did it to their daughter. If somebody had a daughter, like an American couple, they practice Wahhabism or whatever. They have a daughter. They decide to go over to Saudi Arabia, get her vagina sewed up or whatever, and they come back. They'll face child abuse charges. We'll still charge them. They went across international lines just in order to mutilate and harm their child and sexually abuse them. I would class it as a form of pedophilia, in a way. Playing around with a young kid's genitals for no legitimate medical purpose, having a doctor cut them to pieces, it's dumb. It's barbarism. It doesn't make any sense at all. When you call it out, I guess the ADL says that you're being anti-Jewish. No, again, 99% of the people getting it in the U.S. are Protestants, not Jewish. Half of them don't even read the fucking Bible. A lot of people just do it out of habit. It's just sort of become a cultural expectation. Well, slavery was a cultural expectation in part of the Western world until 150 years ago. We don't look back on that and say it wasn't barbaric, do we? It's the same fucking shit. You're essentially treating your child like something that you own, that has no rights of its own, no agency. Well, I think that that's wrong, and I think that for parents to bring their kid into the world and immediately put them under the knife for largely aesthetic or superstitious reasons is horse shit. And I think people making excuses for it are insane. I think the ADL is insane. I didn't need this in order to know that, but it definitely adds to the core of insane things that they have said or done over the prior decades. That's about all. Peace out.